I have a new bed product down at Whiteface Customs I want to show you. So DewEze has been in the business of making hay beds forever. And if you know DewEze, you know you can buy that bed and it's going to outlive 10 trucks. Well, what they've done in the hay industry, we now have in the reel industry. So we have the same quality, engineering, and craftsmanship in this bed to haul your reels. So you contractor guys, stay tuned. Let's check out the details of this bed. So we'll start up front. The bed has a built-in headache rack with a hydraulic tank inside here with a temperature gauge. And you can get these beds set up with a PTO driven off the transmission engine, or you can run it electric over hydraulic. And we'll talk about the differences between those. The hydraulic reservoir up here on the headache rack has a 6-gallon capacity. It also has a filtration system. So you have a spin-on filter, just like you'd change on your pickup, that filters that hydraulic fluid so you can have a long usable life of all the hydraulic components on this rig. Just like any other machine running hydraulic fluid, you need to keep that stuff clean. And with the DewEze system, it's very simple and easy to maintain. We have a nice bed liner on top of the bed so we can keep this thing looking clean. The weld and the finish on the paint are exceptional. The quality of this is just like what you'd see from the OEM if Ford was building a bed themselves. For longevity, you need thick and very strong materials, and you get that on a DewEze reel bed. Nice thick rub rails on the side. You have really heavy duty toolboxes, and I highlight beds that use these because this is a toolbox that's not flimsy. You can be a 300-pound guy, jump up on this toolbox, use it as a step, and it's not gonna break off like a lot of our brands out there. You'll see very thin sheets on those toolboxes, weak materials. We have nice bolt-in fenders. If you have different configurations, you can get this thing in a 60-inch cab to axle, an 84-inch cab to axle. This one we're looking at right here is our 60-inch cab to axle. Come to the rear of the bed. It's a good looking bed. So obviously we want the beds to work well, but it is nice when they look good. If you have a fleet that is running a whole bunch of matching trucks, you can throw these beds on there and you have a nice custom look to the truck. We still have a 2.5-inch receiver here on the rear, trailer plug. If you have sensors on the trucks, we can accommodate those. We can accommodate those backup cameras. So if you're trying to hook up to a trailer to haul, say a backhoe, a skid loader, or additional reels, you can do that. It is set up for both rear fuel and front fuel. DEF, all those things can be accommodated on the beds. Over here on the passenger side, we have quick, easy access to all of our controls for the hydraulic system. There's a manifold inside here with a wire harness, and that's going to allow this wireless remote to communicate to the bed and run all of our functions. So there's a couple reasons you may choose the PTO pump over the electric over hydraulic. So this one is set up with the PTO. On the Fords, the transmissions on these cabin chassis have a PTO provision, which means there's a block plate on the side. You pop that block plate off and it allows access to a gear inside the transmission. So you install a PTO, which will take the power off that gear. Then it attaches to a pump. You look underneath the truck, you'll see it. There is a pump attached to the side of the transmission. We run the hydraulic line there, and that hydraulic line will loop through that pump and send pressure back to this manifold right here. Through our remote, the pressure will be sent to different functions. So what this bed will do is it will go all the way down to the ground, just like picking up a hay bale. But in addition to picking up a hay bale, there's several more functions you don't get with a hay bed. You also get increased deck plate on these. So we have a 1/4-inch deck plate. So the positions where those reels are going to sit, you're not going to damage the bed like you would on some of the other reel beds that are out there. This thing will pick up to an 8.5-foot reel and 5,500 pounds. So you have superior capacity and size, and it doesn't require a drawbar, which we'll talk about that when we get this thing on the ground. So let's get the truck fired up and run through all these functions and look at every single detail about this bed. So this has a wireless remote. If for some reason your remote wasn't working, you do have manual overrides right here, which is a nice feature. When you're out on the job, redundancy is important. You don't want to have a lost remote, dead battery interfere with your day. So you do have manual overrides right here. So you get yourself in a jam, it's easy to get out. The top switch is set up for additional work lights. So you can have 2 here from the factory. If you need to set up additional ones, that's easy to do. So on our remote, we have a power button. After 3 minutes, the remote does go dead. So we reselect our basically we're present button and we can run this bed. So in addition to the equipment you get on the bed, there's a lot of equipment out there on the job site that may run off hydraulic fluid. And instead of having to have an auxiliary power unit out there to run that equipment, you can simply disconnect the quick connects right here on the bed and drive that equipment on here. So whether you have hydraulic units on other trailers, or maybe you have saws or hammers that also can run off of hydraulic fluid, you can simply attach it here and save the time of having to bring a skid loader out just to run some of that equipment. So a huge benefit to having a reel bed on your truck versus hauling a trailer is one employee can do multiple functions. That employee can load reels by himself, especially with this wireless remote. You don't have to have somebody running controls and somebody back at the reel. You can load reels and haul a trailer, so you don't have to have 2 rigs, one bringing an excavator or some type of heavy equipment out and one bringing a reel. You can do it all with one simple rig. This F550 is more than capable of hauling a spool and hauling a backhoe, a skid loader, a mini excavator out to the job site. Because we know employees are hard to find, and the fewer you can use to get the job done, the better it is for profitability. So we have this spool almost touching the ground. We'll talk about some of the functions here. So you can get these beds in multiple configurations so that you can make it meet your budget. This one has our winder option installed on it. So if you're just needing to move spools, you can simply grab spools, set them on the bed, which is what a lot of our customers need. They just need to get them out to the job sites. And then some are running things like fiber optic where they actually need this thing to spool. So this thing is set up so that it will pull 1,200 pounds of force at 500 feet per minute. Now we have a gauge on here so that you fiber optic guys can make sure you're pulling the correct tension. So as this thing spools, it will build hydraulic pressure measured right off of that gear. And we have in the owner's manual a calculation that will tell you how many pounds of feet it is pulling based off the pressure on that gauge. So we'll turn our auxiliary switch on here. We have a handle right here that is in a safety position. Now it's up in the activation position. We have the same force both in a forward and a reverse position. So we also have a free spin mode. You can simply hold the pin right here on the gearbox. Hold that pin, now you can free spool it. So if you're just needing to unwind, and if you want to make sure you can unwind but not have backlash, we have a brake right here. You can crank this brake down. There's a rotor right here in between two brake pads. Really simple setup, easy to maintain, but you can crank this brake down right here and then make sure you have tension on there so that one man can unroll this spool without having a bunch of backlash. So you can get a lot of jobs done with one employee using this bed, which is a huge feature. We'll make sure we don't let this spool roll away from us since we're going downhill. So a unique feature to this bed is we do not have to have the drawbar, which is a heavy, solid shank piece of steel that you have to slide it through the spool. You have to line it up on both sides, especially if you're using a trailer. You know how big of a pain that can be. You can't do it alone most of the time. This is a simple backup, stab the spool. Over on this side, we have pins that you can align for your spool. So you can see how easy this thing is to do on your own. If you're out here on the job site by yourself picking up these spools, it's easy to rotate this, get it to line up, and you can pick these things up all by yourself. So go in, we can align our pins right there, stab it just like a hay bale, lift it up onto the truck. So in under a minute, you can hook up to a spool, run out to the job site, drop it off, save time, be more efficient, and have a great quality bed with DewEze. If you're looking for one of these, give us a call. If you like the content, give us a follow for more.